Hey guys, it's Matt. The video that I just finished for Free Voice, Rob will load tomorrow, Sunday. But I wanted to pop in and make sure the most important elements of that video are being stressed so we can kind of have an initial discussion here. Because as I end up doing with a lot of things, a lot of footage I pull from my hard drive, end up having a lot of fun with it, end up poking fun at it, and you can lose the theme. So this is going to be a more serious video, so we don't lose the mindset on how to go into the video tomorrow. Many of you remember, boy, I guess I came across the footage about 8 years ago. I would say 30% of you know this footage pretty well, and 70% might not know it, or might not know it at all. The starving artists on the 91st floor of North Tower did an art project they called this thing called the Quick Click, where they hovered a helicopter outside the tower and took pictures of people stepping up into the window. Now, again, guys, if you're really familiar with that, I would say 70% of the people here are not really familiar with that. And the point is not just to go cover something that we covered 8 years ago. It's to say or to see what was the point of them doing that. The point of them doing that, of course, was to manipulate us, to manipulate our group, to use us in some way, to have us chase something. And that's the purpose of this video. The whole narrative or story about what was going on in the 91st floor of North Tower didn't have to be there. It was put there for us. That part of the story was put there for us, and I don't know if I'm stressing this enough. I can go back and make a few small changes to the video for tomorrow, but I mean, this is pretty amazing when you think about it. They didn't need that whole starving artist narrative on the 91st floor. I mean, buildings fell. That's kind of big enough usually. So what was all the shenanigans with the starving artists about? It was put there for us. And that's kind of, we want to get to the heart of understanding as to why. Why. Matt, this whole major, storyline, a story inside of a story inside of a story, are you arrogant enough to say was put there for your community of conspiracy people? Yes, absolutely. It was put there for us. Now, back up a bit. No truth or left behind. If you totally have no idea what I'm talking about, let me just do a minute and a half here. It came out after the fact that the 91st floor was granted by Larry Silverfishstein to these artists that made the entire 91st floor into various art studios. One was, I remember from a Nat Geo documentary, the Monica Bravo studio. Some seem to be, or most were real artists. But you don't give away your penthouse space, the 91st floor, rent-free in a struggling building. It was all there to become part of this narrative about what happened. It was put there, these strange stories about these artists and what was going on the 91st floor. It was put there for us. It was put there so we would latch onto it and chase certain things. And that's what we have to get to the bottom of here. Now, first off, when they broke ground on these things, they knew the day they were coming down. There's no question about that. Before they broke ground in '68, they knew the day this would happen. Almost no question about that at this point, at least from everything I've looked at. It's close to 100%. So in a struggling building, if anything were real, you don't give away your penthouse space to artists that can't pay. If you're trying to be charitable or philanthropic, you give them like the space under the boiler, under the parking garage, and they should be happy to have it, a space in the WTC for free. You don't give them, one of the top floors. It's absurd. So knowing that they knew the date, and it was all, I mean, even what happened with the remember the Ryder truck incident, was it roughly 10 years before? All part of the grand script, of course. But So you have these artists, and then somehow you know that is being used in the story, in the narrative. Now, it's only there for us. It's only there for us, and that's what we have to get to the bottom of. It's fascinating to think about that, because you don't need all of these strange incidents with these artists for the regular people, the millions and millions and millions of people down, in your state, in your community. I mean, from between here and California, you don't need any story inside of a story inside of a story about artists getting space for free for the narrative to be believed that it was, OBL in Afghanistan and all that. You don't need that. Why would you need that? The building coming down is pretty dramatic on its own. It's not like one guy in Texas would like, I would believe it, but there's no story about starving artists on the 91st floor, so I'm not going to believe it. The building falling isn't enough for me. So what's it there for? What's all? And for those that sometimes I'm like intimately familiar with all the details, and you might not be. So we have all these strange stories regarding these artists running around the 91st floor. It started with a weird project where one uh, artist took out one of the windows. Remember, there was very long rectangular windows. Built out a wooden balcony. Stood on the balcony for 15 minutes. Disassembled the balcony. This is what I believe was in August. It was in August of 2001, and then put the window back in. And coincidentally, of course, someone in the New York Times just happened to get a photograph of it, and it was called a stunt. These artists, so attention. They want the word to spread, at least inside of a certain group, that there are these artists running around the 91st floor. A story is being built, not a story that's needed for the regular masses, but a story for some reason that's needed for us. And again, if anybody's saying, so they crafted a story inside the event just for you guys, yeah, yeah, they did. They did. Or not for, for this channel, or I mean for the conspiracy, the people that look at things in a different way. That's what it's there for. So you have a lot of different stunts being pulled, one of which is the video I'm examining tomorrow, that I've examined 2 times over the last 8 years. This quick click where they hovered a helicopter outside the tower, took pictures, and ultimately there was no art project. No, you can't find anything. Well, what was the point? Like, why did they do that? Why did they take pictures of people stepping up into the window? The people that stepped up into the window, they I'll be right with you, puss puss. The people that stepped up into the window, none of them ask, what are we doing this for? Like, I understand I'm going to step up into the window, and there's a helicopter hovering, 50 feet or 100 feet, on the other side of the window off the 91st floor, and then I can come back and get my picture that they took from the helicopter. But what's the point of all this? Like, what are you guys doing here? Like, what's the ultimate art project? Nothing was ever produced, and nobody asked that question. So it's just another stunt that they needed the story inside the story. They needed to call attention to these artists. And then in subsequent documentaries, I don't know if it was the one on maybe it was definitely the one called, is it called 910 the day before, on Nat Geo or the Smithsonian Channel. 910 the day before, something like that. I've talked about it several times. It's definitely the creepiest documentary. It talks a lot about these artists. One of the names just popped in my head is Jeffrey Koenigsberg, who was an artist up there. Oh, and he just happened to be in Boston too at the time. They always have to run that script. Like, the guy's name was Mason Wells. He was in Brussels. He was in the airport, um, you know, ridiculous thing in Brussels, and he was also in another event as well, and his name was Mason Wells. These scripts have to run and repeat for some reason, um, and as this happens more and more often, you get into this fractal nature of reality itself, and how it's generated, and why certain scripts have to just run over and over and repeat, and it's just like a part of reality itself, more than the fact that just in the planning of what men and women plan, they have to always make sure this element is inside the script. I don't know, it's like, it almost seems like when we see repeating themes like that, it's like the way the gematria just keeps coming and coming. And the gematria at this point is so impossible that it's not just people putting numbers in license plate all the time. The gematria just, like, I don't know how to describe it. You've heard me talk about it. Kind of flows through the reality itself. A big event could happen, and I talked about, I guess it was a year ago during the Kobe beef thing. I said, do you think it's possible for there to be a big event happen in the world that's not riddled with both conspiracy and gematria? And people, said no, that it's not possible for a big event to happen in the world that's not going to be riddled. It was more about riddled with conspiracy. But the same applies to the gematria. And of course, 10 years ago, all we could get our head around is it's just people putting the numbers in, just men and women making sure the license plate's constructed in a certain way. And that's not how the gematria works, in my opinion. It flows through reality itself. The way the 33 is planted, and the 33 also flows through reality itself. The 33 is a powerful number. A lot of numbers hold power in this realm. They latched on to it because of its power. It's not the other way around. So that's why we shouldn't run from these numbers. It probably the same applies to the all-seeing eye. If there's power, that it's whatever the power this realm affords. Well, if you run from it, then you're just giving it to them. It's not theirs. They didn't create it. It's powerful, and they know the power, and they're drawn to it, whether it be a number, or the eye, or whatever it may be. If we run from it simply because they use it, then that's exactly what they would want. For years I changed my video around a little bit if it ended in a 33. That's just absurd. It's absurd. You should embrace it. They don't own this shit. So anyway, the main point of this video is, why go through such trouble with all these stunts and all these weird stories about the artists when you don't need it? Is anybody, down the street not going to believe the event of what they witnessed on television that day? Then immediately they tied in OBL in Afghanistan, and then they were saying a minute after they came down, a minute or two after, most of the major news outlets were indicting OBL. I mean, they just brought that narrative immediately in. One station, I think, seconds after the tower came down, it's OBL. He's the only one capable of doing that. So why do you need, obviously it was there with these artists, was there for us. And I'm mostly asking for your comments. I don't really know the reason for it. I have something I'm going to put forth, but it seems to be like first grade. I only started thinking about this when I was going over the video I'm making for freevoice.io. I'm sure I'll come up with something more. So for now, I'm not thrilled with my answer. But the first grade, after thinking about it just for a few hours today, the first grade answer is, with the narrative of the starving artist, when they brought in Rebecca Roth, who wrote, Rebecca Roth's books, Methodical Deception, Methodical Illusion, ridiculous. I mean, whether she's in on it or not, complete distraction meant to pull us in the wrong direction, just like the loose change stuff, and for a lot of reasons. Just like, even though there's a lot of truth in the loose change stuff, there's a lot of ridiculous rabbit holes meant to draw us in. So getting back to the point, the main purpose for dangling the carrot out to us and having us chasing down what's going on with these starving artists on the 91st floor, the first grade answer would be to basically have those that are interested in exploring what really happened, the conspiracy community or the truth community that don't accept the narrative of the guy in the cave, to get us to believe that they came down via natural means. That's my first grade answer. Like Stephen Jones's role, Dr. Jones's role. I don't believe his bullcrap for a second. He was the one that put out about the nano thermite. And the only thing that I think even gets close to the truth is the Judy Wood stuff. Who knows what her role is ultimately, or how legitimate she is? I'm never going to take my guard down if I'm indicting somebody falsely, and I apologize. But whatever her role is, her theories got closer to the truth. Something, a means, a technology, or a means we just simply don't understand, turn them to dust. They weren't taken down or anything we understand about a demolition or anything like that. They just went away. It's that simple. They just went away. That's why there was a whole cloud of dust over the whole city. That was the tower, the dust itself. There was no rubble. So Judy Wood's explanation gets closer. So if you want people to chase, in their chase, in their pursuit of truth, the conspiracy people, you want them trying to hold on to the narrative as long as possible. I would think that they were still brought down. They were brought, these people are going to find out what happened. They're going to find out that, just because of a plane, that didn't happen either. But just it doesn't, things don't just fall in 10 seconds. This group over here is going to figure that out. But okay, so when they figure it out, we want them thinking, and still in terms of normal means to bring a building down. What would be a normal means between their bookends? So, not just regular explosives. This Dr. Stephen Jones is bringing forth this special incendiary called nanothermite, but it's still an explanation that's inside the bookends as to how a tower could be brought down. Oh, it was some military grade nanothermite. And that does, if you want a group like ours chasing that, believing it was brought down by some sort of regular means, then the starving artist running around on the 91st floor, that element in the story helps propagate that part, if I'm saying that properly. Because then here comes Rebecca Roth with her, her books are a methodical deception and a methodical illusion. That's her books, not what she's writing about. It's nonsense. Excuse me. And and in one of her interviews, she would show, and of course I know these interviews are 2011, 2010, 2011, something like that. And of course I'm believing she's just this wonderful figure that's written these really interesting books, and I'm on board with all of it. We all were back in the day. So she brings forth these pictures of some of the artists. You've seen these pictures if you've been doing this long enough. Guys with grappling hooks, you know, um, boxes stacked up, and there's a code on the box that's a fuse detonator. I mean, we actually fell for this for a few years. I started to come out, I guess when I looked at it around, I believed it for several years, and then probably around 2014 or 2015 or so, I made a video saying something not, would you, if you were involved in rigging up a building, are you going to let yourself are you going to let a picture being taken of you up here with a grappling hook system, and you're going to be like, Jack, did you really pull out a camera? No, there can't, just the fact that there was a picture, I was like, this is bull crap. But we were struggling in 2014 and 2015 to understand even one hundredth of what we understand today. So Rebecca Roth comes out with that, and again, it just sucks in the truth community. Oh, these guys up there were rigging the building. That's what the artists were, and the pictures with the grappling hooks and the pictures with the fuses all stacked up. I mean, complete nonsense, absolute nonsense. Again, the purpose of tomorrow's video, and as well as this, is to understand how we've been used, and then to ultimately understand why we're used and played like this. So I don't think my answer is very good. It's just so we stay closer to the narrative that a regular means brought it down. Not, I don't even like using the word of technology. Who knows what brought it down? It went to nothing. It went to dust. I mean, well, what could it be, Matt, besides the technology? I don't know, but I don't take anything off the table. at this point. I guess ultimately it could be seen as a technology. So in the 910 the day before, you have a dance troupe that she talks about the older woman who when they interviewed her for the documentary 910 the day before, they talked to her. She's got to be in her late 60s, and they show her she's in all black, he's in all white, and they're doing a rehearsal on this stage. Something about something sort of play under the stars. It's right at the bottom of both both towers, and it's a ritual or a spell of some kind. I mean, there's just no. They're going through these motions of the black and the white, and then right after that, during it, she said we had to stop. The storm came in, and of course it was it was part of it. Of she was involved, this woman in this documentary, in some sort of a dark ritual, whether she's aware of it or not. I would say she was, but the point is, you have these weird things going on. Who knows what brought them down? Um, but when the purpose of this video is what is all these weird stories and rumors and stunts that these artists pulled, and the narrative, even after, especially after the event, keep bringing back in their documentaries, talking about the art studio, interviewing, you know, creeps like Jeffrey Konisberg. I don't even want to. I'm not even going to try to imitate him. I mean, oh, he was also in Boston. Yeah. I don't know. Again, I'm telling you right now, I feel my explanation's first grade. But I started thinking about it really a lot as I was making the free voice video that'll come tomorrow, and I thought, ultimately, if I'm going to use this as an example as to how the breadcrumbs were dangled and how we were used and manipulated, and we need to learn our lessons to no longer be used and manipulated, I should have a pretty good theory as to what was the point of that story inside the story. And I don't have a good answer for that yet. I mean, maybe it is that simple what I'm saying, but I don't think so. I'll keep thinking about it. I think and with your comments, I think we'll eventually get to the bottom of it. But it might take a while too. We still haven't gotten to the bottom of the emerald green color that I covered in a video that's all over the place. And there's many people that were definitive as to what that color is all about and what it means. And I'm not convinced, and no matter how definitive or sure some of the commenters were, the comments were so all over the place, and there was a little bit of truth in so many different things. We still don't have a handle on what that emerald green color is and why it pops up everywhere. Just like people are so sure their explanation of as above, what as above so below means, when there are 10 other interpretations, that it's not like one is right and one is wrong. All 10, there's truth in all 10 interpretations as to what that means. It's beyond the basics of what happens in the stars is reflected here. Well, yeah, of course, but it's so much more than that. A statement like as above, so below. And I've been reminded to put a back end on that: as above, so below; as below, so above. So there's an aspect of ourselves somewhere else. The creeps are in control here, as below, so above. If we allow ourselves to be pushed down towards the abyss here, be pushed into a dark place, if you put the back end on it, as below, so above, then that can affect the more important part of you, or the spiritual aspect. They're powerful here. The way they get to you there is by screwing you here. So that's for another video, guys, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I'm putting out tomorrow. And I don't stress this enough in the video that's coming out, because I just end up, we all need a little bit of a mental respite. And you know what I do with some of this footage? I just start having fun with it. And I can't even say some of this stuff, but I can do it on free voice. So that'll be tomorrow, and it's .io, guys. I don't think I'm going to make a bumper. They call it a bumper, like, hey, go to. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think, some point, if you signed up at No Hobo Code, you'll get an email. But, at some point, if you go out there at 1 or noon and it's not there, I don't know, try back at 3 or 4. You just type in freevoice.io and you'll see the new video. I'm not sure when Rob will get it loaded, but it's that simple. You just type in the website. But I don't think I'm going to make a bumper. I'm not going to keep doing that. The people that signed up at nohobocode.com will get an email, but it will be there at some point tomorrow, probably tomorrow afternoon.